I'm a thinker. I like to create. I got a bunch of different things happening, from the cannabis space to the coffee space to trying to build our own coffee shop now here in Miami, establishing our movement, the family movement. We have two natures as beings. We have a spirit and we have flesh nature. Our flesh nature is of the beast. The spirit nature is of the Almighty God. But the reason why we create Law and Order is return to self, because we have lost your way. If you want to find your way,
today, I get to sit down with a true visionary, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, and the son of the global icon, Bob Marley. Lovely people, Mr. Rohan Marley.
Blessed. They call me Rohan. And ever since I came to America, they start calling me Rohan.
So it's Rohan.
Rohan, yeah.
Rohan Marley.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm good. How's life been treating you?
Excellent, except for yesterday I was on the highway on I-95 and some guy tried to carjack me. Yeah, it's dangerous out there. You gotta be careful. Gotta be vigilant. Yeah. 95 up north a little bit. But you gotta be a vigilant in Miami.
Wow.
So you gotta be careful around the way. And especially now during these times, it's like a lot of functions. I think it's what's it, Grand Prix now?
I think it's F1.
F1. So, the vultures are out looking for all kind of praise.
They are out.
Yeah.
So what's your daily routine like? How do you stay focused?
My daily routine is I wake up in the morning. The first thing I do, I wake up in the morning, I give thanks and praises within myself. Then the next thing I do, I get up and I take my shower, brush my teeth, put on my clothes. I go downstairs, I get a cup of coffee, and I build a spliff. I start my day. Well, it depends on what day it is, because if it's like a Wednesday, because I'm Ethiopian Orthodox, I'm normally fasting on Wednesdays and Fridays. I normally probably start at about 1 o'clock, 12:30. Anything when I like in terms of beverage or anything I'm going to consume at that time. But yeah, and then I get into my day. I'm a thinker. I like to create. I got a bunch of different things happening, from the cannabis space to the coffee space to the trying to build our own coffee shop now here in Miami, establishing our movement, the family movement, where I'm kind of leading the charge in certain of the new developments. So my daily days are strictly focused on creating and giving people I have around me good direction in order to facilitate what is it that I'm trying to achieve.
So you're big on coffee.
Huge on coffee.
I see. Yeah. And you started Marley Coffee.
Yeah.
How was that? And how did you get inspired to start this project?
How I came into coffee was like after I left school. I came here I was born in Jamaica. I got here in 1984. Learned how to play football by 87. I started to play football. Got a scholarship at the University of Miami. After that, I thought I was going to become I wanted to be an NFL player. Of course, it was my dream. But after that, it didn't work out, the NFL thing, and trying to be an athlete in terms of in the professional way to earn a living. That didn't work out. So I jumped on the road with my brothers. I wanted to be their roadie so I can actually learn how to like music. I didn't like music at the time. I didn't listen to much music. I was an athlete. I wanted to learn music. I wanted to learn how to love music, because I didn't love music. I wanted to and the only way to love it, I had to force myself to be a part of it, because I wasn't really, when I was younger I did, but then during my football times, athletic times, I had no interest in music. So I got on the road with my brothers to be a roadie, not really anything much. Jumped in trying to be a musician, trying to learn how to play the drums, learn how to play the guitar. I met a beautiful woman while I was on tour. It kind of changed my life in a beautiful way in terms of my my positioning of where I was going to be in life.
Lauryn Hill, right?
Absolutely. And she kind of she encouraged me to kind of get on my path. I remember one of the questions that she asked me one day was like, obviously this is after 2 children and her winning 10 Grammys or however many amount of Grammys. She said to me, like, what do you do? I was like, what do I do? Yeah, you know what? I'm here taking care of these children. You making all the money. I got a couple of dollars I can feed our kids and do a couple of things. But you got the big money, so why I need to work? But that was my thing. I was gonna be a house husband for the rest of my life. I figured, nah, it wasn't gonna work out. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, what do? I had to figure out what I wanted to do in life, and that's when I I purchased a piece of land in Jamaica. I had $200,000, and I bought a piece of land in Jamaica in '99. I asked the farmers, like, what is the community known for? And they told me coffee. I pretty much asked them, do they know anything about coffee? They said yes. So I said, all right, we're in the coffee business. So from 1999 to 2010, failing at starting the coffee, not getting the license to export the coffee. So I failed at that, moved to Los Angeles in 2004, started Tough Ground Clothing. While I'm doing that, kind of failed at that because I ran out of money because one of my, just didn't have enough money to do it. But I realized I was kind of failing at everything. So I said, come 2007, it's going to be the millennium in Ethiopia. And on the Ethiopian calendar, it's the year 2000. And all my life, I knew that the Christ consciousness, the Christ spirit returns in the year 2000. So being that Ethiopia is the oldest calendar, I didn't want to miss being in Ethiopia during that time because I wanted to get into the Christ energy, the Christ consciousness. So when I went to Ethiopia, I told my family I'd moved to Ethiopia, moved to Africa. When I went to Ethiopia now, while I'm there, the brethren says to me, he says, hey man, what are you doing here? I said, what do you mean what I'm doing here? I came home. He says, no, you're Bob Marley's son. Do you sing? I said, no, I don't sing, but I have a coffee farm in Jamaica. He said, a coffee farm? He says, do you know that Ethiopia is the birthplace of coffee? And when the Yemenites would go into Ethiopia and take the coffee back to Yemen, the Europeans would come and trade with the Yemenites. And then they says, oh, we have the beans from the Arabs. So it became Arabica beans. So after that, I went to a monastery there because I used to go to the monasteries. And on the monastery, the monks, I saw them processing the coffee. So I asked the monk, I said, I thought the church didn't deal with coffee. What's happening here? He said, you see the roof? We got leaks. You see the people that need food. We have this, we have that. The monks need this, they need that. We have coffee. We trade coffee. I go back to Addis Ababa. I hear on the radio that the Ethiopian government has banned Starbucks from buying coffee because Starbucks used to buy coffee on just on the local market, not really on the commodity system. And Ethiopia wanted to build a commodity system. So they wanted to stop all purchasing. And at the time, Starbucks wanted to own the name Yugochafe, which is a region in Ethiopia. So when I heard that on the radio, when I heard that on the radio, I said to myself, are you kidding me? The biggest coffee company in the world don't own a coffee farm. At the time, they didn't. I own a coffee farm. I called this guy. He had $100,000. His name is Shane. He had $100,000. And I said to him, hey, let me ask you something. I said, do you know who my father is? He says, yes, Bob Marley. I said, do you know that my father's the universal man? I say, he says, yes, Rohan. I said, do you know that I'm also universal? He says, Rohan, what are you trying to say? I said, here's the thing. Coffee is universal. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to build a coffee company. And then we're going to build a coffee company from the birthplace of civilization, the birthplace of Rastafari, the birthplace of Haile Selassie I, and most importantly, the birthplace of coffee. I came back to Los Angeles, and all the artwork that I but all the artwork that I had on the apparel line that I created, I stripped the artwork and I built a coffee bag with the artwork.
Wow.
And then I started to name the coffee, like I called the dark roast Jammin' Java. I called the medium roast Mystic Morning. I called the single origin One Love. And I called my tagline Stir It Up. And then
Stir it up.
You know it. and then for Jamaica, I created Blue Legend, which was a brand. And then because we're premium coffee, top coffee in the world, I called our high level coffee top ranking. And for my decaf, I call it Simmer Down. And that's kind of a little bit of how I got into coffee.
I love the names.
It's a long story, but it's just, yeah.
I love that. They said you were Bob Marley's son. How was it living with Bob Marley when you was a child?
Strict. Always on your P's and Q's when your dad's around. Very ITEL, very conscious, Rastafari teachings. Very disciplined around the presence of your father. Around it. Let's make sure I tell you around the presence. It was good, because you're also outside looking in because you're not the man. So you get a chance from a bird's eye view sometimes as a child. You get to vision your father around his friends, but you don't even know what's happening. You just think you know in the moment, whatever is happening in the moment is all you know, but you don't know what led to that moment. You don't have any perception of how it became what it is. You're just in the moment. So you're fascinated by the moments, by the scent in the moment. You're fascinated. Mommy coming to give you something. Thank you. Thank you, moms.
Thank you.
Coffee.
Coffee.
The beautiful coffee. Marley coffee, right? Yep.
He's big on his coffee.
Marley coffee.
And don't drink any coffee either.
But Marley coffee. I don't drink coffee. I drink Marley coffee. So growing up like that, you kind of you live in the moment. You just know what you see. You don't really know much. You don't know how it became. You don't know what it is. You don't know what's happening. But you know it's beautiful because it's happy, it smell good, it look good, it feel good. You like being around your father and his friends. You like because the movement is positive. The movement is about upliftment, and it's always teaching. So we like to be taught. So it was beautiful, beautiful time because our father passed away when we were very young. I was 9 years old. I had an opportunity to really, in Jamaica, at that age, you grow fast. I know you're Caribbean, so you have Caribbean parents, so you know how it is when you're Caribbean. You grow fast and you learn quick. So that's kind of how it is. You end up have to learn on the spot, in the moment.
What was the feeling like seeing all the people showing love to your father at his funeral?
Wow, at my father's resting, I'm 9 years old. I remember the day because I was there in the front row and watching my brothers perform, and I just remember falling asleep. I remember I just fell asleep, and I was just going through the motions. I mean, because I had to remember when my brother Steven came back from Miami, and I was in my father's yard, Hope Road, and I saw him. The first thing I did, they were trying to take over the place. The veterans, when my dad passed on, these guys are crazy. They tried to take over. Wow. They tied my head with this black thing like I was mourning. They put a black thing up there like we're mourning. And I remember when my brother Steven arrived at Hope Road, Steven, Ziggy, and Alan was driving. The first thing I saw him, when I saw him, I started crying, I just remember him saying to me, "Hey man, Daddy said not to cry. Daddy said don't cry." And all I know is that Steven, all he did was tell everybody, stop crying. Mama Rita, Mommy said, Daddy said don't cry. So I remember that time I was just trying to not cry. Like always. Yeah.
What was the most important lesson he has taught you?
So many. I would say you asked the question, what does it feel like to see all these people?
Yes.
But this is what answer your question. It's a lesson I had as a realization in life. I just remember one day, I was thinking to myself, like, man, all these people love your father and they listen to his music and they tell you how much your father's music has changed your life. Who are you? Like, it's like, I had to say, it's time for me to fall in line. Because if, it's like, imagine you live in the house with the man, your father, and yet still the people outside your home are more in tune with your own father.
They feel like their family.
Yeah, so you had to kind of get in tune with self and tap in and be like, no. This is also a teaching for you. This is what you have and more, because we know Rastafari, Mama Rita is there to teach us about the Ethiopian Orthodox faith, the church, because Haile Selassie sent that church for us here in the Western Hemisphere to be closer to the Almighty through prayer and worship and fasting and regimen, of the Orthodox faith. So we had that. So those things were able to kind of stabilize us. So seeing that and feeling that and knowing that, the importance of like just understanding that it's a universal law and we're all part of the human race. And we each have our own independent mind. We each have thoughts of our own ideas, but they belong to self. Those thoughts are your thoughts. Those thoughts aren't to make me upset or you upset. Those thoughts are what you think of each day. There are millions and trillions of thoughts. But if we can understand that those thoughts are just the ideas that we should try to manifest the things that we love from our thoughts, because you have to go through it, you realize that you live an independent life. Life is independent. And the independent life is to be focused upon the mission that what life really represents. And it's about living in this world and living amongst humanity, which are all the same. We're all the same people. We just have different thoughts. Just different thoughts. So we all have the same things. All we have is different thoughts. So when you realize that, you realize, oh, so if someone thinks like you, okay, that makes us one. so, so the key is oneness, and the key is that is like to be within self and just tap into that human existence that each one teach one, and we learn from each other.
I like that.
Yeah.
I love how you all as a family still stick together.
I mean, it's the teaching. So it's like you can, it's your teachings. So are you gravitating towards your teaching? Do you have gratitude to your existence? So that is it. You would be living a lie, and it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work at all.
It wouldn't work. No, it wouldn't work, because that's not the way, And the way works. When you're off the way, it don't work,
Is there one thing you think people have a misunderstanding of your family?
I mean, people, like I say.
Forget the...
No, like I say though, people have thoughts, ideas, it's not going to change anything. But yeah, they do. But it's too many, it's too many. But it's I don't know. You can't like entertain nonsense like I do sometimes, because I like theatrics, because I like to tell stories, so I like to engage people online. I'm like that. I have a like how we met. I'm very engaging on social media. I don't care. It's just like talking to somebody in the street. I don't really care. But I hold my own, meaning what I say is what I say, and what I mean is what I mean. So no matter what anyone says, it don't really deter or nothing. So even what people thinks, it's okay. I still meant what I said, and you can't change it.
That's right. Firm on that.
Factual.
Did Bob Marley cook? Is there a favorite dish?
Like,
how was it?
I'm sure my dad cooked. I just never saw him cook nothing. But my brother Steven, he can cook. My brother Ziggy can cook. My brother, my sons, some of them can cook. My sister, she's a great chef. My mother cook. Everybody cook. I'm just the one that, it's not true that I don't cook. When I was young, I used to cook more than, and now I can't cook a lick. I don't eat much anyway. I'm a vegan, and I try not to eat too much of anything. But to my father, he's Ital. And what is that? He eats an Ital way, which is an organic way. And then sometimes he messes around and eat other things. He's a human being. So when I speak to my brothers, they always tell me things like, yeah, man, one time, look a cow foot. Daddy, look a cow foot. Or lamb. So one day I remembered I wanted to cook for my children one day, and I called my Uncle Richie. I said, Uncle Richie, Daddy eat lamb? He said, yeah, man, Daddy used to eat lamb sometimes when he felt like it. I said, all right, I'm going to cook some lamb. And I'm going to eat some lamb today, because I never had lamb. I don't eat meat, right? So I got this lamb. I went out there and said I was going to cook this lamb. When I put this lamb on this grill and I cooked it up so nice, when I bit into the lamb, I thought I was biting into like hay, like eating grass. I said, no, this ain't for me. I'm like, no. I must have didn't cook it. I must have didn't cook it right. Tastes like grass. I said, no, I don't need this taste. No. So yeah, my father probably cook. Yeah, for sure. Countryman, from the country. So,
so you said you're vegan. What's your favorite meal to eat?
My favorite meal? I'd say coffee. No. No, my favorite meal though, I don't know, I'm wishy-washy like that. When I'm vegan, but sometimes I go pesce, fish. Yeah, my favorite meal, I don't know. I don't have a favorite meal. if I was to if you say something that I crave when I go to Jamaica, it's a roast fish, fresh off the seaside roast fish. But I don't really like that in Jamaica because it tastes like the seawater. It's nice and fresh, and you smell the seawater on it. You don't put any. It's just like a type of seasoning, and then you eat that on a grape leaf, and you eat that on the roadside, right there from the seaside. That's like my favorite thing. It's not really about what is it favorite I like to eat. Is how I like to eat my favorite thing. It's a lifestyle of how I like to eat. It's on the roadside by the seaside, cooking outside.
Oh, the fish has to be amazing in Jamaica.
It's actually fresh and nice.
Are there any new projects that you're excited to be working on?
Absolutely. Well, come next year, my family would be living here in South Florida for 50 years. My grandma, my Uncle Richie, and Uncle Anthony moved here. My brother Stephen and Daddy and Ziggy and Sidella, they used to come here way before me. I got here in 84, so we're part of the stitching of South Florida. So the next project I'm working on, well, right now, actually, I'm a part of the cannabis movement here, the legal movement, and I'm working with a company called Gold Flower. They're my partners here. We're launching that in May here in South Florida through all their ideal dispensaries. Coffee, my next thing is here, build a coffee shop here in Miami, Marley Coffee Shop, of course. But my coffee shop has like a Rohan Marley concept to it, really, right? And really it's about putting our flag in South Florida. Because next year we're 50 years here. 50 years from now, we're 100 years in South Florida. So we're part of the stitching. So we want to get into the community, the gastronomy space here, which is what we have here with the coffee. And also all the other things we have, with House of Marley, we have all the sustainable, eco-friendly audio electronics, stuff, My sister Sidella has great concepts and great ideas, great brands that she has developed also. My brother Ziggy, Stephen, Damien, Kimani, Julian, Stephanie, Karen, Sharon, all of us, Robert, we all have different ideas, Kimani, I said Kimani, right?
A lot. How many is it, all of you?
Well, there's 11 of us. But the 11 loving people and Mama Rita. When it comes on to, I say 11 of us because when it comes on to the direct Marley family, like us, the children, there's many of us. We have like myself, we have children upon children upon children. So there's a lot of us. But when I say 11, it just means the immediate 11 of this generation right after Bob and Rita and my mother and other brothers and sisters' mothers. I said Damien, right? I mean, I can't leave out the star, Damien.
Oh, wow.
Superstar. And then obviously my sons are coming great. I have YG Marley. I have Zion Marley. I have Nika Marley. My daughters are phenomenal. I have Eden Marley, who studies law at Hofstra, graduated with a law degree. I have Salem Marley, who went to NYU, but decided that she's going to return back to school later, which is okay. She's doing her thing. Very, very proud of her. I have Sarah, who is in high school. She just got her driver's license. She driving around asking for gas money all the time. I'm joking. Sarah, I'm joking. And yeah, so, I'm very, very much proud of all the children, all of nieces and nephews. They all follow after their father's footstep and mother's footstep. They're all creative people, so we come from a musical family. So sometimes you're like, man, everybody's singing. I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. That's what, you can't help it. You're a creature of your environment. You're part of the system. You wake up every day. I can imagine my brother's children, and even my own children with Miss Hill. They wake up every day in a studio. But you can't expect them to that's gonna be the craft.
That's amazing. They're keeping the legacy alive.
They don't have a choice. Because it's like when you go to school, right? You're gonna pick up what you're learning in school. So it's the same thing. They're in school every day, music school. So they're picking up on and they know music because they hear it all day from because music is about instruments and notes and keys and scales, So that's the most important thing. And when you learn the instrument way of life, like Skip Marley now, I watch my sister Skip Marley. Yeah.
Slow down.
Yeah, slow down. Let me love you. I watch my sister develop Skip Marley in Mr. Sun. So obviously, I watch her but that's how she was developed in terms of music, right? Music school, singing school classes, singing lessons, guitar lessons, this, because there's no such thing as a gift. You have a desire, and then you can make your desire your gift.
Wow.
Yeah, you have no gifts. What gifts? You have to work at it. Gifts. Where does get? No, you can have inclinations of things you may want to do later on in life. It's like seeing a kid. Oh man, that kid can kick a ball. If you don't train him to kick that ball, he's just going to be that kid that can kick a ball.
Right.
Yeah, you can't have to become masters. And masters is repetition of the same things over and over and over and over again. That's mastery. When you can do one thing a trillion times.
Well, talking about gifts, I actually have a gift for you.
Yeah? What you got?
It's right here next to you. You can grab it if you want to. It's just a little something. It's not nothing.
It's okay.
It's a little something,
Well, I like the bag.
Gold, black.
Wow. Oh my word. Wow. Man.
Did I do good?
Wow.
Did I do good?
Wow. You know me like that. Sorry.
Just a little something. Read it. Read what it says.
Be strong and courageous. I talked to you about being vigilant. Be strong and courageous. I had to be strong and courageous last night because they tried to carjack me on the highway. I was strong and courageous. Wow.
That's for your coffee.
Yes, ma'am. I should just pour it in there right now. But you talk about someone that knows what she's doing. Wow, because I have a thing, right? And my thing is that I collect lions.
I didn't know. But you have Lion Order.
Lion Order. Oh, I didn't even tell you about Lion Order is lion. I am Lion Order, and everything is about the lion because because remember we have two natures as beings, right? We have a spirit and we have flesh nature, right? Our flesh nature is of the beast. Our spirit nature is of the Almighty God, right? Because beasts they exist and they exist in the wild and they are survival. They're instinctual and survival is we are that. We're human beings too, but we have discernment. You know what I mean? But the reason why we create Lion Order is return to self because we have lost your way. And if you want to find your way, you just have to go back to your beastly nature. And learn from your flesh first, which is your representation of yourself, which is the lion, because the lion never changes his ways. A lion wakes up a lion every single day. Wow. There's no day he wakes up a gazelle. There's no day he gets up thinking about who is going to chase him. No.
I see.
Rastafari.
Oh, I hope you enjoy your gifts.
I thank you so much.
This part of the show called Name That Era, and I want you to tell me what comes to mind when I say 1980.
Wow, 1980, really and truly. Wow, 1980. There's so many things I can say. Look, I'm a young Jamaican in them times. I'm in Jamaica. But when you're in Jamaica, you're fascinated by the things that's happening, in pop culture, right? Yeah, of course. At that time, 1980, it was Billie Jean a thing yet?
I believe so.
Maybe, I don't know. But around them times I'm into, all the English bands, musically. We listen, when you ask me them things, I'm going to tell you Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, that's the stuff we grew up on. Hawaii Five-0. What else? 1980. I don't know, man. Just the 80 is that. And then obviously my father did pass away in 81. So even though there's bittersweet 1980. And then, because we didn't see him for a couple of years before that. Maybe a year. Because he was, that man's a busy man.
Wow. What about Marleys? What comes to mind when I say the Marleys?
Family. Big brother, big sister. I have to, they hold the standard, So when you say Marleys, we think family. I just see my family. I just see everyone. You say Marley, I just see all my brothers and sisters. My dad, I see everybody, family.
What's one word that comes to mind when I say Michael Jackson?
Fantastic. Superb.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Rohan, you really set the tone for this journey for me. I really appreciate you for being here.
Anytime.
Sorry I had you in the rain.
It's okay.
I wish you and the family nothing but the best.
Thank
Good
you.
vibes only.
Rastafari love.
Appreciate you all for tuning in. Until next time. And remember, when legends speak, you better listen.